Hello, everyone. Welcome to Broken English Club podcast.
So if you want to reach fluency in a foreign language, the absolute worst thing you can do might actually be hiring a tutor.
Right, which sounds totally counterintuitive at first.
Totally. But today, we are taking a deep dive into a case study of a learner who, ditched the expensive software, fired the private teachers, and basically achieved fluency by locking himself in a bathroom for 10 minutes a day to just, well, talk to a piece of glass.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And welcome, by the way, to the deep dive. We're glad you're here.
Yes, welcome. We're exploring this really revealing excerpt from a piece called The Mirror Method, Mastering Fluency Through Self-Reflection. And it centers on this conversation between two friends, Alex and Mia.
Right, and they're discussing a remarkably simple, completely free, and actually highly effective shortcut to language fluency.
Yeah, and our mission today for you listening is to basically extract the core principles of Alex's method. We want to figure out why talking to yourself isn't actually, crazy, but a powerful tool for self-improvement. Okay, let's unpack this because the setup of this conversation is just brilliant.
It really is. I mean, the most profound cognitive shifts often hide behind the simplest daily habits.
Exactly.
From the outside, speaking to your own reflection doesn't look like much. But structurally, the neurobiology of what is happening during those 10 minutes is entirely rewiring how the brain processes and generates spontaneous thought.
Yeah, and Mia notices this, right? She notices that Alex's spoken English has improved dramatically. And naturally, she assumes he, threw a ton of money at the problem.
Oh, of course. That's the standard assumption.
Right. She asks which intensive course he bought. He says he didn't buy one. She asks if he hired a private native speaking tutor. He tells her no. So she finally demands to know his secret, and he reveals the mirror method.
Yeah.
He literally just stands in front of a mirror for 10 minutes a day and talks to himself.
You can imagine her immediate skepticism there. I mean, it violates every traditional metric of how we're taught to measure academic effort.
Oh, Mia gives the exact reaction any of us would give. She tells him point blank, that sounds a little crazy, and admits that if she tried it, she'd probably just laugh at herself.
Which is a very human response.
Right, and I completely relate to it. It's kind of like singing in the shower, but you're attempting cognitive development. You're alone. You're making noise. You feel objectively silly.
Yeah, you feel very exposed, even to yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do have a serious point of pushback here on the methodology. I mean, if you are just talking to yourself in a mirror, aren't you entirely missing out on the essential feedback loop of a real conversation?
Yeah.
Like, without a teacher or a native speaker there to correct your grammatical mistakes, aren't you just reinforcing your own bad habits? Aren't you essentially fossilizing terrible grammar because nobody is there to stop you?
It's a great question. And what's fascinating here is that Alex views the total lack of a feedback loop not as a bug, but as the method's core feature.
Wait, really? The lack
Yeah.
of feedback is the point.
Yes, exactly. When Mia challenges him with, "But what if I make mistakes?" his response flips the traditional learning model on its head. He tells her, "That's the best part. Nobody is there to judge you."
Huh. Nobody is there to judge you.
Right. We have to look at the neurology of adult language acquisition to understand why correcting mistakes is actually counterproductive in the early stages of fluency.
Okay, I'm listening.
The single biggest barrier to speaking isn't a lack of vocabulary or, failing to grasp the subjunctive tense. It's the affective filter.
Meaning the psychological wall that goes up when we feel vulnerable.
Exactly. The amygdala cannot differentiate between the social threat of looking foolish in front of a fluent speaker and a physical threat to your safety.
Wow, really? It treats them the same.
It does. When you try to speak a new language to another human being, your anxiety spikes. That affective filter goes up, and your brain literally reroutes metabolic resources away from the language centers.
Like Broca's and Wernicke's areas, right?
Yes, exactly. Away from Broca's and Wernicke's areas, and dumps them into threat detection. You freeze not because you don't know the words, but because your brain is actively suppressing your ability to access them in order to manage this perceived social danger.
Okay, so by removing the other person entirely, by firing the tutor and ignoring the native speakers, you are surgically removing the source of the cortisol spike.
You lower the affective filter to absolute zero. When you stand in front of that mirror alone, your nervous system registers a completely safe, zero judgment zone.
Right.
Yes, you might conjugate a verb incorrectly, but the paralyzing fear of external judgment is completely gone. Once the threat response is deactivated, The language centers of your brain are free to experiment.
To kind of just stumble around without consequence.
Exactly. You try out new phonetic shapes without triggering a fight or flight response. I mean, fluency requires volume. You have to generate a massive volume of garbage output before you can refine it into fluent output.
So the mirror gives you the psychological safety net to produce that initial mandatory garbage.
You give yourself permission to be terrible.
Which is so freeing. And Alex is very honest that it wasn't an instantly comfortable process. He tells Mia that at first, he felt incredibly shy talking to his own reflection.
I'm sure he did. It's awkward.
Yeah, he actually did laugh at himself, just like she predicted. He felt the acute awkwardness of the exercise. But he pushed through that initial friction.
And that's the key.
It is, because he hit a milestone that I find genuinely staggering. After just 1 week of doing this for 10 minutes a day, he noticed a massive internal shift.
A week is incredibly fast for what happened next.
It really is. Here's where it gets really interesting. He tells me, I stopped translating Bengali in my head.
Yeah, that is the defining threshold of fluency right there.
Really?
Just like that.
Oh, absolutely. It is the precise moment the brain stops treating the target language as a complex decryption puzzle and starts treating it as a primary tool for spontaneous expression. But translating in your head is such a brutal cognitive bottleneck. I mean, I'm shocked it only took him 7 days to break a habit that plagues language learners for literally years. Why does vocalizing to a mirror trigger that specific cognitive shift so rapidly?
Well, think about the mental mechanics of translation like a highly inefficient relay race.
Okay.
A thought originates in your brain, right? You hand the baton to your native Bengali vocabulary.
Got it.
That runner hands the baton to your conscious knowledge of English grammar rules. Then that runner translates the Bengali into English and finally hands the baton to your vocal cords to speak.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. Every single handoff requires immense working memory. Every handoff is an opportunity to drop the baton, which manifests externally as stuttering, pausing, or just, completely losing your train of thought.
So you simply don't have enough RAM in your working memory to juggle the native word, the grammatical conversion, and the physical motor plan for speaking all at the exact same time.
Precisely. The human brain's working memory is incredibly limited. Conscious translation causes massive cognitive lag.
Right.
But when you force yourself to speak continuously out loud to a mirror, even for just 10 minutes, you are demanding a physical pace that conscious translation simply cannot maintain. Your vocal cords are demanding the baton faster than the middle runners can process the translation.
Ah. So the brain realizes the relay race is failing. And out of pure biological necessity, it basically fires the middle runners.
Exactly. It drops the native language intermediate step entirely.
That's wild.
To keep the mouth moving, the brain begins forging direct neural pathways from the abstract thought straight to the English vocabulary. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this simple act of daily solo speaking is fundamentally rewiring the brain's approach to spontaneous thought generation.
Because you aren't digging through a dictionary anymore.
Right. You are no longer retrieving data from an internal dictionary. You are training your mind to conceptualize and generate original thoughts directly within the linguistic framework of English.
Okay, but solving the internal translation bottleneck doesn't necessarily solve the physical panic of a real conversation.
How do you mean?
Well, you could be thinking perfectly directly in English, right? But the moment you step out of the bathroom and look another human being in the eye, you just completely freeze. How does talking to a piece of glass prepare you for the unpredictable physical dynamics of talking to a real person?
That's a really sharp observation. And Mia actually picks up on this exact transition from internal processing to external projection.
She does.
Yeah, she asks Alex. So mirror speaking improves confidence too. And he confirms it does, pointing out that in the mirror, you aren't just practicing audio output. You are actively practicing eye contact, facial expressions, pronunciation, and the rhythm of your fluency simultaneously.
You know, the best analogy for this is an athlete reviewing game tape but doing it in real time.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. Like, if you're trying to perfect your tennis serve, you don't just close your eyes and visualize the swing. You record yourself to watch the actual biomechanics.
Exactly.
When you use the mirror method, you aren't just hearing the cadence of your vocal cords. You are literally watching the physical performance of your communication unfold. You can instantly see your own micro-expressions of doubt. You can watch your eyes dart away to the floor the second you struggle to find a word.
And that visual feedback is crucial because language is fundamentally visual. We convey an immense amount of syntactic intent, emotional nuance, and authority through our posture and our gaze.
So true.
When you converse with someone, holding eye contact consumes cognitive bandwidth because you are constantly scanning their face for subtle judgments or reactions,
You're trying to decode their thoughts while...
simultaneously encoding your own.
That's a lot of multitasking.
It is. But by maintaining steady eye contact with your own reflection, you isolate the variable of the stare. You are experiencing a split-screen reality where you role-play both the active speaker and the active listener.
Oh, I see.
You systematically desensitize yourself to the vulnerability of being looked at, but without the unpredictable variable of another person's judgment. You are training your nervous system to tolerate the pressure of a direct gaze while simultaneously retrieving complex vocabulary.
So you're basically building the physical muscle memory of confidence.
Yes, exactly.
So when you eventually sit down at a coffee shop with a native speaker, the physical mechanics of holding their gaze and keeping your facial expressions relaxed are already fully automated.
Because your brain isn't panicking over the eye contact anymore.
Right, which means all your cognitive resources can remain dedicated to the actual speaking.
You've isolated and neutralized the physical triggers of the affective filter.
Okay, so we've broken down the creation of the judgment-free zone, the neurological rewiring to bypass internal translation, and the real-time feedback loop of physical confidence.
Yeah.
But, and there is a glaring pragmatic question here that Mia asks.
Which is,
It's the exact question someone at the beginning of their journey listening to this is wondering right now. She asks Alex, what if someone has very weak English?
right, the beginner's dilemma.
Exactly. How do you physically execute 10 minutes of mirror speaking if your vocabulary is virtually non-existent? Do you just stare at your reflection in silence for 10 minutes waiting for words to magically appear?
Well, if the initial barrier to entry requires too much effort or pre-existing knowledge, the habit will be abandoned by day 3.
Right. But Alex's answer is a masterclass in behavioral psychology. He tells Mia to start super easy. He gives her a literal blueprint.
What's the blueprint?
She says, just use small basic sentences. I am hungry. I like coffee. Today is hot. Or he suggests narrating incredibly mundane life events as they happen.
Give me an example.
His example is, hi, my name is Alex. Today I woke up late. I was feeling lazy, but I still decided to practice English.
He's not asking her to debate macroeconomic policy.
Yeah, no, of course not. So what does this all mean for the structure of building this habit? How does narrating something as basic as I like coffee actually lead to complex fluency?
This raises an important question about how the modern education industry sells us on optimization.
Oh, how so?
Well, we are conditioned to believe that meaningful progress requires complex, grueling routines. Alex's core philosophy destroys that assumption entirely.
Okay, I like where this is going.
He emphasizes to Mia that 10 to 15 minutes daily is all it takes, explicitly stating consistency is more important than perfection. Narrating mundane events works precisely because the cognitive load is incredibly low.
Right, it's the absolute antithesis of the Sunday cram session.
Exactly.
You aren't sitting in a library for 4 hours, inducing a massive cortisol spike, exhausting your brain, and then basically avoiding the language for a week because you're traumatized.
Exactly. The neurological mechanism of learning relies on myelination.
Myelination.
Yeah, it's the process where your brain coats frequently use neural pathways in a substance called myelin, which allows electrical signals to travel faster and more efficiently.
Ah, yeah.
A massive, stressful 4-hour cram session doesn't trigger efficient myelination. Consistent, low-stakes, daily repetition does.
That makes so much sense.
By telling yourself you only have to speak for 10 minutes and you only have to say things as simple as, I am hungry, you eliminate the dread associated with studying. You make the behavioral friction so microscopic that you can't invent an excuse to skip it.
It's a tiny daily habit that compounds invisibly.
The sheer, unburdened repetition of simple structures is what hollows out the stone. You are building the automated neural highways with simple sentences so that later, when you want to use complex vocabulary, the infrastructure for direct generation is already built and fully myelinated.
Wow. Okay, to pull all these threads together from Alex and Mia's conversation, we started with an idea that initially sounds absurd, standing alone and talking to a piece of glass.
Yeah, definitely absurd on the surface.
But beneath that apparent silliness is a highly robust psychological framework. By isolating yourself, you drop the affective filter, eliminating the anxiety that paralyzes your language centers.
Right.
By speaking continuously, you overwhelm your working memory's ability to translate, forcing your brain to bypass your native language and forge direct pathways to English thought.
Dropping the middle runners.
Exactly. And simultaneously, you're utilizing real-time visual feedback to desensitize your nervous system to the vulnerability of eye contact, locking in the physical micro-expressions of confidence.
It's multi-layered.
It really is. And the entire system rests on a foundation of microscopic behavioral friction, just 10 minutes a day, prioritizing the consistency of showing up over the perfection of the output.
It is a brilliantly self-contained, neurologically sound system that costs absolutely nothing to implement.
Free is always good. And crucially, before Mia goes off to try this, Alex leaves her with one final, highly practical piece of advice.
Oh, what was that?
After she enthusiastically commits to the method, he warns her. But don't scare yourself at night looking in the mirror.
A vital logistical caveat for anyone attempting this at home.
Absolutely turn the bathroom lights on, folks. We're trying to build cognitive pathways here, not induce sleep paralysis.
Definitely. But the broader implications of Alex's method extend far beyond just language acquisition.
I was thinking the same thing.
We've examined how looking in the mirror and vocalizing without the fear of judgment can completely reconstruct how our neural pathways process foreign concepts.
Yeah.
It demands a wider reflection on the nature of adult learning in general. You have to wonder, what other profound mental barriers in our lives, be it public speaking, creative block, or navigating complex personal decisions, could we systematically dismantle simply by granting ourselves the grace to stand alone in a room, face ourselves completely unfiltered, and be willing to be imperfect for just 10 minutes a day?
That is an amazing thought to leave on. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.